Good morning, Mega Podlings. It's Crazy Joe, and I'm going live a little late tonight. I apologize for that, but it's been uh, it's been busy. Wow, I just saw. I'm sorry, I just got distracted by a headline over here on one of the videos on YouTube. I was trying to bring up the live chat, and something caught my eye that I was like, "Oh, um, video I'm gonna have to check out later." Hey, I see Aubrey. I see Boredom Strikes. Welcome, guys. I see Jamel. Um, Sorry I'm late. It's, day before Thanksgiving. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to go live today because I thought my daughter and I were going to be watching a movie tonight, but it turns out that did not happen. Let's see what's going on here. I apologize. I'm trying to get the chat on this. It's easier for me to see the chat on the iPad than it is to see it on that screen over there. Come on. And I can't bring the chat up for some reason tonight. What is going on here? What is the problem? All right, guys, I apologize. The chat is being wonky today. See, here's the thing. On the phone that I'm looking at, it comes up for like a second. I could actually go through, scroll, see it better down here. But for one reason or another, my iPad is not connecting tonight. And I am not getting any, I'm not getting the chat. All right, guys, I'll keep fiddling with this, but I'll try to read what you're writing up here. So I apologize. I apologize for that. So how's everybody doing? Is everyone ready for Thanksgiving? Is everyone prepared for the craziness of tomorrow? Yeah, apparently I'm not going to get the chat down here tonight. What is going on? I'm offline. Check my connection. Except it says I am on the Wi-Fi. So why is this saying? Maybe I should turn it off and on. Let's try that. Let's try turning this off and on again and seeing if that makes a difference. Okay, come on. No, I don't want Siri. I want to turn the thing off. There we go. All right, guys, I apologize. I can't really see the chat right now. If you say something, I'll respond. But it's fleeting on the phone. It's there for like a second, and then it's gone again. So is everyone ready for Thanksgiving? I see Ed K. What's up, Joe? Hello, Ed K. How are you? Oh, I just got a text from one of my old friends who I haven't seen in years, and apparently I'm going to get to see him Saturday night. Saturday night is my high school class reunion. And it's kind of cool because my friend, whom I haven't seen in years, wasn't in my class. He was actually a year younger than me. So I was not anticipating seeing him. That's very cool. I apologize. This is probably one of the worst live streams I've done to date. I feel very disorganized so far. Bohemian says, just got done making a no-bake Butterfinger pie. Aubrey says that should be fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And that pie sounds pretty good. I just finished making a spinach casserole for tomorrow. It's one of my favorite Thanksgiving dishes, the spinach casserole. And here we go. Let's see if this works. I have rebooted this iPad, and hopefully it will now connect to the internet. So tomorrow, I gotta say, I'm kind of looking forward to Thanksgiving, and I'm kind of not looking forward to Thanksgiving. Kyle says, "What time's the stream over?" It's probably going to go about an hour, so it's about 10 now. We'll probably go to about 11. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to tomorrow, but I'm also kind of not looking forward to tomorrow because it works. It works, ladies and gentlemen. I have to drive to Virginia. And I'm not looking forward to getting up in the morning and driving and then driving back again on Friday. It usually takes about 4 or 5 hours to get there. and I'm sure it's going to take about 6 or 7 hours to get there tomorrow because it's Thanksgiving and there's going to be holiday traffic. Unfortunately. Anyway, but it's going to be fun. Well, I mean, it'll be fun when we get there. When we're there with the family, it's going to be a good time. But it's the commute I'm not looking forward to. So let's see, who all's here? Bohemian's here. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you, Bohemian. Sam Haskell says, hey, can't stay up too late. Got Black Friday tomorrow. It's Brown Thursday tomorrow. Tomorrow's Brown Thursday. Kyle says, what time is it? Oh, I already read that. Yeah, we'll go about an hour. Ed K says, what will you listen to on the ride? Children's music. Probably stuff from soundtracks to Barbie movies, Disney's The Descendants, the kind of stuff that will drive anyone insane. That is what I'll be hearing the whole time. But that's the way it is. Kyle says, oh, so howdy, Joe. Aubrey says it'll be worth it to spend time with the family. Boredom says, I feel depressed for you. Yeah, it's going to be a long drive. It's going to be a long drive, but it is what it is. But it'll be fun. Like I said, it'll be fun when we get there. It's just the drive that is going to be soul crushing. Connor says, what did I think about the guy in Irishman with the name of Krazy Joe? I actually turned to Cinema Sickness in the theater and said, what kind of a name is that? Punk Nerd says, sorry, just saw your comment. And Bohemian says, I had a bad week this week. I'm sorry, Bohemian. I'm sorry to hear that. We didn't have a great week ourselves, to be honest. We had a really rough yesterday. Yesterday was not good. Not good at all. But, hey, you get through it, right? Boredom says, what are your thoughts on the confirmation that Warner Brothers is doing both Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad as R-rated films? Don't like it, quite frankly. I don't like it. I feel like they're going too far with the R rating. It feels like they're trying so hard to be different from what Disney's doing. And they don't need to go that route because they're being so successful under Walter Hamada. We've had Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Shazam, my God, was Shazam good. And Joker was a big success. The Joker was rated R. But we've so far we've had an alternate cut of Batman v Superman, which was rated R. We have Joker, which is rated R. If you look at what's streaming on the DC Universe streaming service, Titans is like an R-rated adult-oriented program. Same thing with Doom Patrol. Same thing with Swamp Thing. They're saying it's going to be the same thing with the animated Harley Quinn series that's premiering there. That's going to be mature audiences. And now we've got the Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey. I feel like they're just trying to reach so far the other way. And I've had people say, oh, well, you know, some comics aren't for kids. Well, the problem is that not these books, not Birds of Prey, not Suicide Squad. Those were not mature readers' titles in the comics. They weren't mature readers' titles. It's like Deadpool. People always say, oh, Deadpool had to be rated R. No, Deadpool didn't have to be rated R. The bulk of Deadpool's run in the comics, he was published under the Comics Code Authority. It was not, you know, DC had Vertigo. Vertigo was their mature readers line. Marvel had Marvel Max. And there was a brief period of time where Deadpool was published as a Marvel Max title, but it was a blip on the radar. The bulk of that character's history, he was published under the Comics Code Authority in regular newsstand editions. It wasn't a mature reader's book. So no, he doesn't have to be rated R because he wasn't rated R most of his run. Same thing with Harley Quinn. We're talking about a character who originated on Batman the Animated Series. It was a series that aired in the 3 o'clock after school. She's not a mature character. She never has been. They're trying to turn her into one. It's not what she was. Suicide Squad, again, in the 80s. It was published under the Comics Code. It was never like a Vertigo title. So and Titans. I mean, it's a good show. Don't get me wrong. I like the show. Titans is a great show. But I even said to my wife the other day, because like it's like every other word's like F this, F that, F that, and and I'm not offended by that word. That word doesn't bother me. I'm a Tarantino fan. It doesn't bother me. But there's a time and a place, and sometimes things don't feel like they. Sometimes profanity feels natural, like, oh well, that is the way this character would talk, and there are other times where it feels like it's forced. And I said on Titans, like I'm listening to like Hawk from Hawk and Dove, just every other word, F this, F that, and I'm like, this really feels like fake. Like it feels like it's they're overdoing it. So yeah, that's how I feel. I don't like that Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey are going to be rated R. They should not be rated R, and it kind of reeks of desperation on Warner Brothers' part, and unnecessary desperation, because they are so successful right now. I mean, my God, talk about a turnaround. Under Zack Snyder, what they did with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, they've really turned it around. Aquaman was the first one to hit $1 billion. Shazam, really popular. People, it got a good CineScore from audiences and critics alike. Turned a profit. It was a lower budget film. Now that's getting a spin-off of Black Adam. They're so on the right track, and this feels like I just desperately throwing something at the wall. Like, oh, the Joker was a hit. That was rated R. Let's lean into that. We'll be the R-rated comics, and Disney will be the family-friendly. So anyway, that's my rant. I'm disappointed by it. Don't get me wrong. I'll still be there opening day for both movies. I'm sure they're both going to be great movies, because James Gunn on Suicide Squad. I mean, James Gunn is a true talent. He makes great movies. I can't wait to see what he does with it, but it feels cheap. And Birds of Prey, that looks terrific. That looks terrific. It's Christina Dodson who wrote Bumblebee, a movie that just had so much heart, and I can't wait to see what she's going to do with Birds of Prey. So yeah, I'm really excited for both movies, but I'm disappointed. So anyway, Ed K says, do people actually care about the Snyder Cut of BVS, or is it just a bad meme? Well, it's not the Snyder Cut of BVS, it's the Snyder Cut of Justice League. And I think there's a vocal minority that cares very, very, very much. But they are the minority. And I'll tell you why they're the minority. Justice League did not perform at the box office. It did not perform. And that doesn't mean people went and saw it and didn't like it. Actually, the cut that went to theaters performed very well with the audiences that saw it. If you look at the CineScore, it did very well. The audiences that actually paid money and went to the theater and saw Justice League, the CineScore was high. They enjoyed what they saw. The problem was not enough people actually went to the theater and bought a ticket. Why? It was a repudiation on what Zack Snyder had already done. People saw Man of Steel. People saw Batman v Superman. People did not like Man of Steel. People did not like Batman v Superman. So they're like, I didn't like these last two. I'm not going to the next one. So Zack Snyder killed that franchise. He could have killed it dead. Fortunately, Walter Hamada came in and was able to save it. Wonder Woman did well. Aquaman did well. But Zack Snyder almost killed it dead. People did not go pay their ticket price to see Justice League because they did not like what came before. And the Justice League box office was a repudiation on Zack Snyder. So all this, the Snyder Cut. If people cared so much about Zack Snyder, they actually would have paid and seen the movie. The fact is, Zack Snyder drove people away from the theaters. So no, it's The people who are saying release the Snyder Cut, release the Snyder Cut, they mean it. They want to see it. But they don't represent the general public, because most people don't care about the Snyder Cut. They didn't care to go see the movie anyway. And frankly, I don't want to see the Snyder Cut. I heard what Snyder had planned, and his movie would have been terrible. I think that Joss Whedon single-handedly saved that movie. I love Justice League, and I love Justice League because Joss Whedon came in and fixed it, basically. Anyway, I am getting off on a rant here. Punk Nerd says, Joe, I subbed you on my second channel. Cool comment on Sheets. I love making update videos. Boredom Strike says, I agree with you. Thank you, Boredom. Aubrey says, I agree. Kids are going to want to watch these films because the first Suicide Squad, and they won't be able to. Yeah, it really, to me, it feels like desperation. Boredom says, like you, Joe, I grew up with Superman the movie and Batman, big part of my childhood, and I would have been robbed of that if they were rated R. I feel like by doing them rated R, they're robbing kids of the same sort of childhood. I wish Snyder would stop egging on the release of the Snyder Cut, people. Seems like he's burning his bridges with Warner Brothers. I can't say I disagree. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everything has to be PG. I mean, like, I think maybe Watchmen was appropriate to be rated R. I mean, it had a character whose wiener was hanging out the whole movie. Yeah, that's going to be rated R. You got a big blue wiener floating in the breeze. You got to get that an R rating. Preacher, well, Preacher went to television, but if Preacher was a movie, it would have to be rated R. I mean, but that's a Vertigo title. You can even make a case for Swamp Thing being rated R because that's been published both ways. That was published originally under the Comics Code, then later on it was under Vertigo. So it's been both places. So you can make an argument to do that family friendly or rated R. And I would agree with you. But I'll tell you another character who you can even make an argument for is Green Arrow. For a while in the 80s under Mike Grell, when Mike Grell was writing Green Arrow after the Longbow Hunters, it was a mature reader's title. Now, this was before DC had the imprint that said Vertigo, but the book actually said on it for mature readers, and it contained profanity and a lot more violence. So if you even said to me, I want to do an R-rated Green Arrow, I would say, okay, there's precedent there. There's precedent there. But not every, I mean, what they're doing now just feels like we're just desperately trying to do something that is different than what Disney's doing. You know, that's my take. Backquin Forever says, hello, everybody. Hello, Backquin. Trashboat says, have I watched Netflix, A Series of Unfortunate Events? I haven't. Now, it's based on a young reader's series of novels, right? I've never read the novels either. And I didn't see the Jim Carrey movie either. Jim Carrey says, what are my thoughts on the movie Fanboys? Connor, I hate the movie Fanboys. I am not at all a fan of the movie Fanboys. I don't like the movie Fanboys because, number one, I don't think it's funny. I think the characters are so far removed from reality. Hang on a second. This is related. I'm going to step off camera for a second, but this is related to Fanboys. Where the heck is it? Down here at the bottom. All right, guys. There's a channel here on YouTube called The Burnett Work. It's hosted by a guy named Robert Meyer Burnett. And Robert Meyer Burnett wrote and directed a movie in 1998 called Free Enterprise. Here's the movie. Free Enterprise. I love this movie. I remember I bought this movie sight unseen. I hadn't seen the movie, and I read about it. And just what I was reading sounded interesting. I said, that sounds like something I want to see. So I went out, and I ordered the movie. This is back like when most of the obscure titles you had to get online, like, you know, like, I don't even think it was Amazon yet. I think I went to like DVDexpress.com, something like that. I start watching this movie, and my reaction was, I recognize these characters so much. It feels like me and my friends. These characters feel so real. I felt like whoever made this movie, and at the time I didn't know who Robert Meyer Burnett was, but whoever made this movie, I said, I feel like they followed me around on an average Saturday and took notes. So I stopped the movie. I was about 20 minutes in. I stopped the movie. I called Dave Perillo. I said, Dave, I'm coming over. I'm bringing a movie. You got to see this. We watched this together. And I really felt like I was watching Dave and I, our life on film. So anyway, several years later, the movie Fanboys comes out. And I can't help but draw a parallel between Fanboys and this. Because whereas all the characters in this movie felt very recognizable to me, felt like I know that guy. That guy, I am that guy. I know that guy. I've met that guy. Every one of these characters was very, very, very familiar to me. Then I watched Fanboys, and it was cartoonish. It was cartoonish. You had characters like Seth Rogen's character, who the Star Trek fan. They had this imaginary war between the Star Trek fans and the Star Wars fans, or the Star Trek fans and the Star Wars fans don't like each other. That's BS. You watch this movie, these guys are obsessed with Star Trek and Star Wars. They quote Star Trek and Star Wars because that's a real sci-fi fan. Most sci-fi fans like sci-fi. They like good sci-fi. And they may have a preference. They may say, oh, my favorite is Star Trek. My favorite is Star Wars. My favorite is Babylon 5. My favorite is The X-Files. I don't know. But that doesn't mean they're going to shut the door on every other franchise. A sci-fi fan likes sci-fi. So these guys liked both. But this movie, Fanboys, is building up this imaginary, non-existent Star Wars, Star Trek rivalry. That doesn't exist. That is not a real thing. It never has been a real thing. I've my whole life been a sci-fi fan, and most sci-fi fans I know love Star Trek and love Star Wars because they love sci-fi. I don't know. Everything about Fanboys just felt cartoonish and silly, and the characters just weren't believable to me at all. None of them felt real. So maybe it's unfair to compare Fanboys to this movie, but I can't help but compare Fanboys to this movie. I just can't help it. And this movie is so much better, and these characters feel so much more real. And I recognize all these characters, whereas in Fanboys, it just felt like a cartoon. So I'm not a fan. I know people really, really like it, but I am not one of them. And I apologize for that rant. Aubrey says, big blue floppy. I did not expect to see that on the big screen. Trashboat says, do you think Justice League Dark would benefit from an R rating? I doubt it, but JL Dark can get pretty intense. Well, you can make a case for that because Constantine is there and Swamp Thing is there, and they've been Vertigo characters in the past. I could see a case being made for that. I don't know if that's the route I'd go, but I don't know that I would, if it happened, I wouldn't say, well, that's unprecedented. Joey Baseball says, hey, Joe, sorry I'm late. I thought Crazy After Dark was canceled this week. You know, it almost was. It almost was, Joey, but we're here. Joey says, here's the twist. Robert Meyer Burnett did secretly follow you around for years. He and I have met since then. We've I got to hang out at his office several years ago. He was working for Gary Goddard Productions. Gary Goddard was the director of the Masters of the Universe movie and the creator of Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. So I did get an invite from Robert Meyer Burnett, and I got to go and hang out there. Maybe someday I should try to get him on here. I know he does pop up on other. I've seen him pop up on channels that represent the worst of YouTube, like absolute trolls, and he goes and does their channels. So I'm sure if he'll go on some of those trolls channels, he'll probably come on a channel like this where we try to keep it positive. Boredom Strike says, I agree. I love both Star Wars and Star Trek. Yeah, and most sci-fi fans do. Well, here's the funny thing. Here's what I find funny. Star Wars is definitely more mainstream. It's definitely more mainstream because it's basically a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale in space. It's wizards and knights, and it's got space trappings, but it's basically a fairy tale. So I think it has a wide appeal. It's got that Disney appeal. It fits that it's part of Disney now because it's got that Disney appeal. Star Trek is more hard sci-fi. So what I find is most Star Trek fans love Star Wars because they like sci-fi. But not all Star Wars fans are sci-fi fans. A lot of the mainstream Star Wars fans just like Star Wars because it's not really sci-fi. It's more of a fantasy fairy tale in a space setting. So that's been my experience. All Star Trek fans are Star Wars fans, but not all Star Wars fans are Star Trek fans. That's been what I've found personally. Connor asked, did I like Keanu's Constantine? He was fine. It wasn't terrific, but he was pretty good. I like Matt Ryan from Legends of Tomorrow. He's a better Constantine. Aubrey says, did I see the trailer for Dark Waters? I did not. Joey asked what I'm doing for Thanksgiving. I am going to be in Virginia with my in-laws. Sav says, I agree. I'm also a sci-fi fan. I love Star Trek, Star Wars, SG-1, and many more. Exactly, yeah. Doctor Who. What else is there? Dr. Farscape. Battlestar Galactica. I like sci-fi. You know what I don't like, though? I don't like The Expanse. I've tried. I hear it got better. But I watched like the first 5 or 6 episodes of The Expanse, and I felt like I was watching paint dry. Like, that was like the most boring show I've ever seen. I keep hearing if you stick with it, it gets better in the subsequent seasons. But my God, was season 1 painful. So I did not make it that far into The Expanse. But it certainly wasn't for lack of trying. Trashboat says, Joe, besides stuffing or mashed potatoes, what's your favorite Thanksgiving side? My spinach casserole that I just finished making. Maybe it's a cheat to say my own side, but my spinach casserole is my favorite. That's why I make it every Thanksgiving, because I want to make sure it's there because it's my favorite. And if I don't make it, I don't know that anyone else is going to make it. And I want to make sure it's there. Joey says, what's your favorite giant Thanksgiving Day parade balloon, past or present? I got to go with Garfield. Kermit the Frog. We'll go with Kermit. I love Kermit. Backwin says, I always hate when people compare Star Wars to Star Trek because they're two different things. Star Wars is a huge space opera, where Star Trek is about a crew exploring new planets and creatures. I agree completely. They are apples and oranges. They're so different. Yeah, they're really not. They have star in the title. That's where the similarities begin and end. Joey says, Buzz Lightyear is a pretty cool balloon too. Like SpongeBob because he's the only square balloon. Punk Nerd says, I think the R restriction for under 18 is kind of annoying for us teenagers who want to see R movies on a date or something. I can't disagree. I cannot disagree with you there, sir. And making something R-rated doesn't mean it's going to be good. I mean, like, there's good R-rated movies. There's terrible R-rated movies. There's good PG movies. There's terrible PG movies. It's all about the script. It's not about the rate. Giving something an R rating isn't suddenly going to make it good. It's just the way it is. Boredom Strike says, Joe, did you watch the last 2 seasons of The X-Files? And if so, did you like it? I watched the second to last season, season 10, and I watched some of season 11. I didn't finish season 11. I really liked the one about the Mandela effect. I thought that was a good one. The one with the were-monster was great. The X-Files, I think, always is at its strongest when it's not a heavy continuity conspiracy theory episode. The standalone episodes are usually my favorites. My favorite episode of all time of the X-Files is the episode Bad Blood. It was a vampire episode where it was a he said, she said, where you see the everything that happened from Mulder's perspective, then you see it from or Scully's perspective, then Mulder's perspective. That's my favorite episode. I think they always were stronger with their standalone episodes. Joey says, I feel like just because the word star is in most of the titles, that's how this started. If it was called Space Wars or Space Trek, there would be no pretend rivalry. Agreed. Agreed. And nobody ever tries to throw like Babylon 5 in there. No one's ever like Star Wars or Babylon 5, you know. And Babylon 5 is a lot more similar to Star Trek. At least they're both set on Earth's future. They're both like I know Starfleet isn't a military organization, but they're both kind of sort of a military organization. I know Starfleet's not a military organization, but you got Starfleet, you got Earth Force. There's more of a comparison between Babylon 5 and Star Trek. If you said Babylon 5 versus Star Trek, that's a more apt comparison. But Babylon 5 doesn't have star in the title, so people don't do that. Punk Nerd says, on a related note, I got rejected and I am panicked because I only have one more year and it's like a 1 girl to 4 guy ratio. 1 more year for what? What are we talking about? Did I miss something? What do you have 1 more year for, Punk Nerd? Greg's Game Room is in the house. He says, what's up, Cracky? Hello, Greg. It is good to see you. I wish I had been at Free Play Florida this weekend. It wasn't going to happen, but would have liked to have been there. Sev says, I like the Starman movie and TV series. Oh my God, Starman. What a great show. What a great series. And you know, Starman, you can bring that back so easily because like the Doctor on Doctor Who, you have a built-in story reason of why the character would look different. Because every time he comes to Earth, he gets a new body. The first time he took the body of Jeff Bridges, he left, comes back, gets the body of Robert Hayes. I interviewed Robert Hayes once on the podcast. I should put that interview up here on the YouTube channel. But we talked extensively about the Starman TV series when it was coming out on DVD. And that's a show that really needs to be rediscovered. If you have never seen the Starman TV series, do yourself a favor and check it out. The John Carpenter movie, Starman, that's my favorite John Carpenter movie. Not Halloween, not John Carpenter's The Thing. They're great movies. I love Halloween. I love The Thing. But my favorite John Carpenter movie is Starman. Nathan says, sounds like the X-Files version of Rashomon. I don't know what Rashomon is, honestly. Trashboat says, why is it called Star Trek? They never go to any stars. Well, they would burn up if they literally went to a star. Or Backquin says, how about Star Wars versus Battlestar Galactica? Now, here's what's funny, Backquin. I say Star Trek and Star Wars aren't that similar. And they're not. But I would argue that the original Battlestar Galactica, the original Dirk Benedict, Lorne Greene, I would say that's more like Star Wars. And I would say the new one with Edward James Olmos is more like Star Trek. Battlestar is kind of funny because I feel like, because the old version was kind of like more mythic, whereas the new version felt more military. It's bizarre. I really feel like the original Battlestar is more Star Wars and the new one is more Star Trek. Does anyone agree with me on that? I don't know. That's kind of funny. Oh, Park Nerd says, I have 1 more year of high school. I'm going to my high school reunion on Saturday. Greg says, I just saw Midway today. I liked it, but the actual Midway battle seemed kind of truncated. Did I ever watch Robotech? I have seen Robotech. It's been a long time. They Live and Escape from New York were my favorites. Greg, those are great choices. I love both of those movies. You know what movie I also like by him? It's a little bit of a under the radar one, and I understand he doesn't like it. John Carpenter's not a fan, but I actually like the movie Memoirs of an Invisible Man with Chevy Chase. I thought that was actually a really good movie. That's a John Carpenter movie. Rashomon is Kurosawa's famous film. I've never seen that one. I've seen some Kurosawa, but I haven't seen Rashomon. Joey Baseball says, just remember that every time a girl rejects you, you saved yourself a future heartbreak and possibly thousands of dollars. This is true. This is true. Nathan says, I think John Carpenter's best film is Assault on Precinct 13. That's a good one. Trash Boat says Twilight Zone is the best sci-fi series of all time. Changed my mind. Wouldn't dare trying to change your mind, Trash Boat. I love the Twilight Zone. It's not my favorite, but it is fantastic. It is definitely one of the best without question. Sav says, what do you think of Battlestar Galactica 1980? Battlestar Galactica 1980 is one of the all-time bombs. It's like it's considered one of the worst TV shows of all time. I kind of like it for cheese. It's a fun show. It's not a good show. You know what I mean? It's not good, but it's fun. It's entertaining. I do kind of enjoy it, but it's not good. Backwin says my favorite John Carpenter film is either Halloween, The Thing, or Escape from New York. Again, all good choices. I never liked Escape from L.A. Too similar. So it was like the exact same thing as Escape from New York. Joey Baseball says well, this is a side conversation, but he says, believe me, you don't girls that reject you, you don't want girls that reject you anyway. It's for the best. You'll understand later in life. This is true. This is true. Then there are girls you wish had rejected you because they just wasted your time. Aubrey says, I just watched Mirror Mask for the first time. It was weird. Have you seen it? I have not seen Mirror Mask. That was a Jim Henson Productions film, right? But Henson had nothing to do with it. In fact, I think, did Neil Gaiman write that? I know of the film, but I've never seen it. Greg says, well, the new BSG was run by Ron Moore, who was on Star Trek The Next Generation. So inevitably it was going to be like Star Trek. This is true. And not only Star Trek The Next Generation, he was like one of the head writers of Deep Space Nine, which is still to this day my favorite Star Trek show. And still to this day my favorite TV series. If you ask me to this day, what's your favorite TV series of all time? Favorite TV show? Without question, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Absolute my favorite. Greg says BSG 1980 had one good episode. Let me guess, Greg. Return of Starbuck. Am I right? Return of Starbuck? Let me know if I'm right. Backwin says Escape from LA was okay to me. I really wish we could see Snake come back again. I would like that too. I would like to see Escape from Earth. Trashboat says best sci-fi exploration or exploitation film. Flash Gordon, Barbarella, Ice Pirates. Flash Gordon's a lot of fun. Adam Bates is here. Says hi guys. Hello, Adam Bates. Welcome to the chat. I Want My Slaw says, how do you tell the difference between the Ninja Turtles? Everyone claims they have different personalities, but I can tell them apart from their masks. Well, here's the funny thing. I Want My Slaw. In the original comics, they were in black and white. They didn't have different color masks. And when they were drawn in color, like on covers, they all wore red. Every one of them. The only way to tell them apart was their personalities and the weapons they carried. That was it. It wasn't until the animated series that they did the color-coded masks. Aubrey says, Henson was not involved. I found Mirror Mask for 99 cents and had to pick it up. Yeah, Henson himself had already passed, but it was Jim Henson Productions. It was a Henson movie, but not Jim Henson, because Jim Henson had already died at that point. Greg says, yes, Return to Starbuck, copied by Enemy Mine a few years later. Joey says, have you seen DVDs at Dollar Tree? Mine don't have any. Oh, Joey. Got a bunch right here. And I got some more over here. Yes, I did find some at Dollar Tree. Absolutely did, including one of my all-time favorite Christmas specials. The Christmas season's obviously about to start. And this is one of my all-time favorite classic animated Christmas specials, and I found it at Dollar Tree. Rankin and Bass's 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. Does anyone remember this? Christmas chimes are calling Santa, Santa, every harper calling Santa, Santa. I love this. I love this. And it's at Dollar Tree right now. Anyway, I Want My Slaw says, I feel Henson's death really destroyed puppetry. Ooh, I wouldn't say that. I think puppetry is still going strong. I mean, even the Muppets and Sesame Street and the things that Henson started are still going strong. Eternal Harmony says, recently rewatched your Emmett Otter video. It's always the first Christmas movie I watch each year on December 1st. It's a good one. I love Emmett Otter. I think the one problem I have is there's no good high quality version of it. Like it came out on Blu-ray last year and I got the Blu-ray, but the image still doesn't feel nice and crisp and sharp. Even on Blu-ray, it kind of feels soft. Like, I don't think they've still done a good. I think that movie really needs some work. They got to do something to remaster that, make it look better. Backwin says, have I ever done a video on all the autographs you own? If not, could you make a video of it? I think it would be cool. I could possibly do that, Backwin. I wonder if people would be interested in that. I could certainly do it. Eternal Harmony went to 3 Dollar Trees yesterday. None had new movies yet. Rick and I found some just before the Cinema Sickness live stream Monday. We stopped at a Dollar Tree right before the live stream and we found a bunch. I found, let me see. One of these days I should do a pickup video. I don't really do pickup videos. It's not really my thing. But I know people like seeing them, so I should probably do them. You know, it's not here, but I found a Doctor Who Blu-ray. It was a cool Doctor Who Blu-ray in 3D. Greg's Game Room says, why is there no Baby Yoda in stores yet? Well, the simple answer, Greg, is that Lucasfilm didn't want to make Baby Yoda merchandise because they didn't want the surprise of Baby Yoda leaking before The Mandalorian premiered. They wanted to preserve that that surprise, but they really should have had the merchandise ready to go. Now they're putting out t-shirts and coffee mugs, but they're all using the exact same image. It's kind of weak. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Baby Yoda merch coming out right after Christmas, and by then the Baby Yoda phase will probably be over and people won't care anymore. Jim says Dollar Tree is supposed to run from BF until Christmas Eve, Black Friday. Some stores haven't put them out yet. Joey Baseball says, I really want the Fraggle Rock Blu-ray, but I hate the packaging. Well, I thought the packaging was pretty good. I got it last year for Christmas, actually, from my wife. Adam says, what do I think of Meet the Feebles being adult puppets? I like Meet the Feebles. That was Peter Jackson. I really enjoyed that movie. I haven't seen it in years, though. Punk Nerd says, does anybody watch the new Magnum P.I.? If so, in the protest scene in the most recent episode where they're protesting the high school age girl goes to our school. I have not seen Magnum P.I. But what the girl on the show goes to your school? That's pretty cool. The actress? I Want My Slaw says, what are some of my favorite Muppet Show segments? Oh, I love Pigs in Space. I got the Pigs in Space, play set right over there. Love Pigs in Space. I always liked Wayne and Wanda. Veterinarian's Hospital. The continuing story of a quack that's gone to the dogs. I should remind you guys all, Super Chat Hippo is here. Anyway. Sav says, what do I think of Jodie as Doctor Who? She's great. She's great. The writing has gotten much better. The last season of Doctor Who with Jodie Whittaker, the writing improved dramatically from the Peter Capaldi years. I hated the Peter Capaldi years. No fault to Peter Capaldi. Peter Capaldi is a great actor, and he made for a good Doctor. But the scripts were terrible. I think Stephen Moffat basically burned himself out. And if we're being honest, if we're really being honest, the Matt Smith years weren't that good either. Here's the thing. Season 5, the first Matt Smith year, was great. That was great. It was fantastic. The first year of Matt Smith was terrific. And I think they got so much goodwill in that first season that they kind of coasted. Now, I think part of the problem is they implemented this thing where they would do a few episodes, then take a half a season break, and then come back and do the conclusion. But the problem is there weren't enough episodes to build to the break. So it was like you'd kind of get a little bit of momentum and then have to stop cold. And then you'd have to start again. And I think that mid-season break really, really hurt their momentum, and it hurt the show. It frankly hurt the show. Then we got stuck with Clara, one of the worst companions of all time. Can't stand Clara. But part of the problem with Clara is she was written to serve a purpose. She was the impossible girl. But once her job as the impossible girl was done and the doctor regenerated, it was like they didn't know what to do with her. So anything with Clara after the regeneration into Peter Capaldi is painful to watch. Moffat really, I think, burned out quickly on that show. But the Chris Chibnall years are proving to be a dramatic improvement. Anyway, enough Doctor Who rant. Brandon Sullivan says, I bought that Doctor Who blue for my mom for Christmas. I did buy it too. Trashboat says, I think Baby Yoda is a clone. The Mandalorians have been linked to cloning for some time now, so it would make sense. Apparently there was something, an Easter egg that I didn't see. So, Dave Perillo told me about it. But in the last episode 3, The Sin, when the Baby Yoda got turned over to Werner Herzog's people, apparently someone had some symbol that the Camino cloners had on them. So like they were gonna either, if he's not a clone of Yoda, they were going to clone. I don't know. There is something cloning there apparently, because there was some kind of connection to the cloners on Camino. I'd have to read about what it was. Dave Perillo was telling me. I didn't notice it on my own. Joey says, I can already see all the 2020 Baby Yoda Christmas merchandise that says Baby's First Christmas. You know what, Joey? I would totally buy it too. That would be really, that's cute. That's cute. Henry says, how many YouTubers you watch left YouTube? 2 for me. I don't know anyone who's left YouTube. Everyone I watch is still on YouTube. Adam says we need a Back to the Future Muppet movie where the Muppets go back in time. I'll watch anything with the Muppets. Eternal Harmony says, got to get to bed. Just wanted to check in on the live stream and say that I'm a big fan of your videos. You do a great job. Thank you, Eternal Harmony. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. You have a great Thanksgiving. I appreciate all you guys watching. Aubrey says, night everybody. Hope everyone has a wonderful turkey day. Remember to wear pants with elastic waistbands. Keep wearing your pajamas. That's what you could do. Keep wearing your pajamas with the plastic feet. I Want My Sauce says, I have recently gotten addicted to dark chocolate. Any advice on how to wean myself off? It's becoming a problem. I don't know. I don't know. Captain Christopher Pike 920 is here. Captain of the Enterprise. He says, hi, Crazy Joe. Happy pre-turkey day. Happy to you. Happy day, Thanksgiving day to you, Captain. Sav says, Captain Kirk be decorated. Yes, and he's wearing Hanukkah. He's wearing some Hanukkah garland because William Shatner is Jewish, and I'm letting the Shat celebrate his culture. It's the way we do things here. Eternal Harmony says, hope you and your family have a great Thanksgiving. Oh, thank you, Eternal. You as well. Joey Baseball says, I don't recall Doctor Who ever being in 3D. It was a few times. They played some of the episodes in movie theaters of Fathom Events, and they converted them to 3D. So they played in the theater in 3D. Ed K says, Joe saw a lot of people talking about the Popeye movie on Twitter. What are your thoughts? The Popeye movie with Robin Williams? That's odd. People were talking about that on Twitter recently because that's an old movie. I wonder why. It's a good movie. I like it. I remember at the time it came out, it was kind of a bomb, but I enjoy it. It feels like a live action cartoon. I think they did a really good job with that movie. Henry S. says, "Did you just call me Kremet?" Did you just call me Kremet? Is that a reference to a Muppet production? I don't remember that. Nathan Brittle says, "Dark chocolate is healthier than milk chocolate." I've heard that. I have heard that. I do like dark chocolate. Punk Nerd says, "Going to Best Buy and Walmart tomorrow, and another Walmart and a mall called Alamona Black Friday. Have a robotics game Saturday." You know, Punk Nerd, I wish you luck in your hunting. I will be spending most of the day in a car. Trash Boat says, "How often do I have to stand my action figures back up?" Not often. They usually stay in the pose I put them. The He-Man figures in the display case over there are a different story. They're always falling over. Joey says, "There was supposed to be a Popeye movie in CGI." Yes, there was. And I'm disappointed it didn't happen. I can never remember how to pronounce his name, but it was supposed to be the guy who did Hotel Transylvania and created Samurai Jack. It's a Russian name. Tarkovsky. I don't know. But I wish it had happened. Sony apparently backed out at the last minute. Adam says, "Joe, do you have a movie collection?" I have a movie collection right in that room there that you can't see, but there's a room over there, and they're all in there. Henry says, "Found Midnight Movies Land Time Forgot, and People Time Forgot at Dollar General for $1. It's a good price." Oh, Sab says, "Dark City was a great movie." I love Dark City. Punk Nerd's got to go. Have a good Thanksgiving, Punk Nerd. Thank you for stopping by. Maybe I'll show you some of what I got at Dollar Tree. I picked up a movie I've never seen, but Cinema Sickness is always raving about it, always saying it's phenomenal, you got to see it. And I picked it up on his recommendation. I got The Innkeepers at the Dollar Tree. So there you go, Innkeepers. A Cinema Sickness selection right there. What else? Yeah, this is a sci-fi series. This is a series from Sci-Fi Channel. I've never heard of it. But it's the complete first season. I found it at Dollar Tree for $1. The Almighty Johnsons. And this is a show about a family called the Johnsons that are all like apparently the reincarnations of Norse gods. So that's interesting. So that's, I got a lot here. Maybe I shouldn't show you everything. Maybe I should do a video. Maybe I should. Anyway. Joey says, "What is your issue with the Chris Nolan Batman films?" My issue with the Chris Nolan Batman films is they're too realistic. They're very, very obsessed with realism and doing a real world Batman. And this is what Batman would be like if he existed in the real world. And they do it well, frankly. They do it well. But it's not really what I want from Batman. Because let's face it, Batman's not realistic. Batman is the most realistic of the Justice League characters. But it's a sliding scale. It's like, compared to the alien god and the Amazonian Wonder Woman and the space cop with the magic ring, he's the most realistic of that group. Being the most realistic of that group doesn't really make him realistic. So I'm going to see a fantasy movie. When I go see Batman, I'm going to see a fantasy movie. And I want them to not be embarrassed by the source material. I want them to not be embarrassed by the fantasy. Because that's what it is. Look at some of Batman's villains. Clayface. Clayface is a villain who has the power to change his shape. You've got the Demon Etrigan. Not always a Batman character, but he crosses over with Batman quite a bit. You've got Killer Croc, who's a giant talking crocodile, basically. You've got Man Bat, who's actually a mad scientist who turned into a bat. A lot of the Batman characters are fantastic, non-realistic characters. So Chris Nolan comes along and he's like, no, everything's got to be real. We have to have the science behind it. We have to show how he built this, how we could do this, blah, 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 blah. Everything's got to be real. And he did the best version of that you could do. But just because he did the best version of that you could do doesn't mean that's what I wanted to see. An example I always give is I want a pizza. And I call and say, I'm ordering a pizza, bring a pizza to my house, and you bring a cheeseburger. And it's a great cheeseburger. It's a terrific cheeseburger. It's the best cheeseburger anyone's ever made. And I bite into that cheeseburger and I go, this is a really good cheeseburger. This is a great cheeseburger. But I wanted a pizza. So that's my problem with Chris Nolan. He did the best realistic Batman you could ever do. But I don't want realistic Batman. In fact, they wanted to do the Justice League movie back in like 07, 08. Warner Brothers was like, we want to do Justice League. And he was like, well, you can't use my Batman because my Batman doesn't exist in a world with those characters. My Batman exists in a real world, and you can't put him in that fantasy world. And it's like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You walk in to their sandbox and you're going to be like, we're playing with the toys my way. It's like, no, you're in their sandbox. And Batman is a contemporary of Superman. Batman and Superman know each other. Batman and Superman are friends. And you're going to say, oh, my Batman can't exist with Superman. I'm sorry, I'm not on board with that. And then all realism just got thrown out the window in the third one anyway, because it starts leaning into some crazy fantasy stuff in that third one anyway. I don't know. Anyway, that's a long explanation, but that's my problem with Chris Nolan. Also, he basically was the guy who ruined Man of Steel, because as much as Zack Snyder takes all the blame for that, and deservedly so. Zack Snyder deserves blame. Zack Snyder was basically a hired hand on Man of Steel, because Christopher Nolan and David Goyer cooked up that script, that story on their own, and then they went out and hired a director to bring it to life. So what you saw of Man of Steel, that was David Goyer and Chris Nolan's vision, and then they hired a director after the fact to bring it to life. And the guy they got was Zack Snyder. So Zack Snyder takes a lot of the abuse, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve any of it, because he does deserve some of it, a lot of it, in fact. But that movie was kind of going to be what Man of Steel, at least, not Batman v Superman, but just talking about Man of Steel, that movie was going to be what it was if someone else had directed it too, because Nolan and Goyer hired a director to execute their vision. So I kind of feel like Christopher Nolan set the whole DC cinematic universe off on the wrong foot to begin with. And another thing, he didn't want to put Batman in the costume. He didn't want, in Batman Begins, Christopher Nolan did not want Batman wearing the Batman costume, because he said that wasn't realistic. He didn't think that Bruce Wayne would actually put that costume on. It was David Goyer who insisted, no, he's got to wear the costume. We're doing Batman, he's got to wear the costume. But Nolan, even the Batman costume was too much for Nolan. He didn't want him wearing the costume. And I just keep coming back to, if you're that embarrassed by the source material, if you're that embarrassed by the material you agreed to make, why are you making that material? You should be making your own thing. You should be making something else. If you don't like what this is, don't make this. So that's a long story short, but that's why I don't like. That's why I don't really like the Nolan version of Batman. Trashboat says, you want them to bust out the shark repellent bat spray and the bat credit card. Now, you see, I've heard people say that before. And I'm sorry, but that's a false argument. That's a false argument. Uh, just because you aren't going to be realistic doesn't mean you have to be ridiculous. There is a middle ground. You can be serious and take seriously what you're doing in a fantasy world. Just because you're not going to be hyper realistic doesn't mean you have to be silly. Batman the Animated Series is the perfect example. Batman the Animated Series gets the tone perfect. It doesn't take itself super, super realistic, super, super serious. They lean into the fantasy elements. You've got your Man Bat, you've got your Clayface. Those kind of characters are there. But the tone is just right. It's still dark. It's still, Batman is dark and broody, but it leans into the fantasy as well. You don't have to go from hyper realistic to Adam West. There's middle ground, and Batman the Animated Series is probably the finest example of hitting that middle ground they've ever done. I think Affleck hit the middle ground as well. Ben Affleck is probably my favorite Batman. He's probably the best on-screen Batman we've ever had. Unfortunately, he wasn't in the best on-screen Batman projects we've ever had. He deserved better project. He deserved better scripts. He deserved his Batman 1989 or his Batman Returns, which are tremendous movies. I love those. Anyway, what was I saying? Sav says Superman 78 is the best Superman. No question. No question. Absolutely. Superman 78 is still to this day one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. So much heart, so much sincerity. Superman the movie from 78 is a perfect movie. It's a perfect movie. Can't say the same about Superman 2. Superman 2 is great, but it has flaws. Superman 3 and 4 have a lot of flaws. But Superman 1 is perfect. Joey says, I do agree on Nolan. He's brilliant, but he's stubborn and hard-headed. He still believes film is better than digital, even though modern-day digital has so many more benefits over film. Joey says, who had to deal with more abuse, Zack Snyder or Rian Johnson? Definitely Rian Johnson, without question. Rian Johnson, I have so much admiration for Rian Johnson. Because if you ever follow Rian Johnson on Twitter, he is so, all the abuse he took from, and I'm sorry, if you're firing off abuse at Rian Johnson on Twitter, you're a troll. You're a troll. You don't have to like his movie. You're free not to like his movie. Film is subjective. But if you're going to go after him on Twitter and call him every name on the book, that's trolling. I mean, I just sit here and told you I don't care for Christopher Nolan. I've never once gone after Christopher Nolan on Twitter. I've never gone after him on Twitter. Like, you're an a-hole, Christopher Nolan. No, I leave the guy alone. He makes his movies. He does what he's going to do. I'm either going to watch his movie and like it. I'm going to watch his movie and not like it. But I'm going to leave him alone. The people who go out after these guys because I hate your movie and I'm going to now abuse you 24/7 on Twitter, those guys are trolls because leave the guy alone. You didn't like his movie. You didn't like his movie. You don't have to go after him. But Rian Johnson takes it with such grace. He really takes it with such grace. He engages with people. If they say, here's what I didn't like about your movie, he'll explain why he did it. He said, well, here's why. He really, the temperament he has is kind of impressive, really, because a lot of other people would have gone off. I remember Paul Feig. I don't like Paul Feig. I don't like Paul Feig at all. And part of the reason I don't like Paul Feig is because when people were saying they didn't like his Ghostbusters, he basically accused all the fans of being misogynists. He basically was like, well, you're all misogynists. Rian Johnson doesn't do that. I say Rian Johnson has definitely taken the most abuse. And he's such a good filmmaker. I just saw Knives Out. Watch for my review. I haven't put my review up yet, but I will tell you it's one of the year's best. It's one of the year's best. It's so clever. It's so funny. It's so good. Go check out if you finish your Thanksgiving dinner and want something good to eat. Go see Knives Out. It's terrific. Trash Boat Bobby Bolin says hi. Hello, Bobby. Trash Boat says, how do I feel about Gotham? Honestly, I'm not a fan. It was Batman without Batman. Yeah, I know. Bruce Wayne was there, but it was like, how much younger was he than all his villains were adults, and he was like 12. So it's like, what, he grows up to be Batman, and he's fighting geriatric villains. Like, I don't know. I didn't care for Gotham myself, but I know people really liked it. Ed says my favorite Joker is Party Man. I'm assuming that means Jack Nicholson. Joey says, wait, I was unaware of this. How do you make Batman without the costume? Exactly. Say what you will about David Goyer, but you could thank the fact that Batman wore a costume in those Nolan movies to David Goyer. That's the old David Goyer there. Joey says, my problem with Twilight's Robert Pattinson as Batman is that Batman isn't a vampire. Well, neither is Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson's an actor. I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's perfect casting. Monkey Man says, George Reeves is my favorite Superman. Christopher Reeve was too much of a pretty boy. George Reeves was not my favorite, I gotta say. I think Superman has a very specific look, and anytime they don't get the look of Superman right, I'm kind of disappointed. I think Christopher Reeve was a perfect Superman. I think Brandon Routh was a perfect Superman. I think Henry Cavill's a great Superman. I didn't really like Dean Cain as Superman. I thought Dean Cain had too much of a... Dean Cain didn't look like Superman to me. George Reeves didn't look like Superman to me. Tyler Hoechlin from Supergirl, he's on the cusp. I think sometimes I look at him and I'm like, he doesn't look like Superman to me. But then other times he'll turn his head the right way. He'll do like, he's pretty good, but his performance is great. But I don't know. I'm pretty particular on my Superman. I think it's because Superman doesn't wear a mask. Batman, no matter who you cast as Batman, you put the mask on, you're going to know it's Batman because he's wearing the Batman mask. Spider-Man, anyone you cast as Spider-Man, you put the mask on him, you're going to look at that mask and go, that's Spider-Man. Superman doesn't wear a mask, so the face really has to have a specific look to capture the look of Superman. I don't know, that's my take on it. Joey Baseball says, I agree the trolls are pathetic, but did Rian Johnson ever explain why he killed off, insert spoiler here, in Star Wars 8? I think everybody knows by now. Is that still a spoiler all these years later? Well, I think that it's because I think they needed him to be a Force ghost in Episode 9. I think he was supposed to have a similar arc as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think you kind of had to have him die to get where they need him for Episode 9. Also, apparently the plan was that Princess Leia was going to be the last Jedi, which that plan fell apart because Carrie Fisher died. But I don't think we're gonna. I know you omitted the spoiler, but I think everyone knows it's been 2 years, so we'll talk about it. I think Luke had to die so Leia could step up and be the last Jedi, which obviously didn't happen. But or maybe it still will, because Leia is in Episode 9. I don't know how they're going to use her, but I have a lot of faith. J.J. Abrams is one of those guys who rarely lets me down. Star Trek Into Darkness is one of the few times he did let me down. I hate Star Trek Into Darkness so much. But I got faith. Trashboat says, I give Feig a break on that one. His humor is very sarcastic and dry, so it was probably a joke. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know Feig personally, obviously. Trashboat says Superman had a whole show without a suit. Yeah. Had a lot of problems with that show, too. Same kind of problems I have with Gotham. Superman without Superman. Joey Baseball says, what was your issue with It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood? Rick said he didn't like it because it's not a biopic, but the synopsis clearly said the movie is about a journalist who interviews Mr. Rogers. Yes, but Mr. Rogers is a supporting character in the movie. It's really not about Mr. Rogers at all, which is very deceptive. The trailers, when Tom Hanks gets top billing. Tom Hanks gets top billing. The movie's called A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. They're playing this off in every trailer, in every commercial. They're playing it off as a Mr. Rogers biopic. And it's not what it is being advertised as. And what makes it even worse is the main character, the guy who Mr. Rogers is playing second fiddle to, is a very unlikable character. He's a really hard character to root for. He's a really hard character to get behind. So it's not a bad movie. It's not a great movie. I was let down by it. I was really let down by it. It's not the movie I wanted to see. It's not the movie I was advertised. Tom Hanks honestly shouldn't have top billing in the film, quite frankly. He's not the star of the movie. And the guy who is the star of the movie, I don't like him. And maybe not the actor personally. I don't know the actor, but the character, I didn't like the character. Adam says, do you think Star Trek and Star Wars are in the same universe? Maybe in a multiverse. Maybe they do a slingshot around the sun. I don't know. Star Wars was obviously a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So I think there would have to be time travel involved. I Want My Slaw says, have you ever seen the live-action CGI Rocky and Bullwinkle movie? It's horrible CGI, but it's the cheesiness I love in movies. I've never seen it. I've always heard terrible things, but I've never actually seen it. One of these days I may have to check that out. Trashboat says, fun fact, Jedi is the plural of Jedi, so the Last Jedi doesn't have to be a single person. This is true. This is absolutely true. Chris Pike says, do you remember Star Stuff, the TV show that used to air on Saturday mornings? Chris Pike, you are a local Philly guy. Yes, I remember Star Stuff. I have one episode of Star Stuff saved in my computer. Someone put one episode up on YouTube, and I don't know if it's still there, but I snagged it. I would give anything to get a DVD of the whole series of Star Stuff. It's my understanding it doesn't exist anymore. I heard Channel 10 erased the masters. And to those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Star Stuff was a show that used to air Saturday mornings about a kid in the present day who found a way to talk to a girl who lived on a space station in the future through his computer. It was a 1980 TV series, locally made, locally produced. And every episode featured Laurel and Hardy because the kid had a library of Laurel and Hardy videos and he would play them to make the girl in the future laugh. So every episode would have a Laurel and Hardy segment, and every episode had a puppet segment called The Edge of Space. Oh man, if you're not in the Philadelphia area and don't know what we're talking about, look up Star Stuff, WCAU, Channel 10. If that episode is still up there, you'll get to see exactly what we're talking about because it was on YouTube for a while, and I saved it. I pulled it off YouTube. I got it. Anyway, yeah, I do remember Star Stuff, Chris. I loved Star Stuff. And there was another locally produced show from Channel 10 that also aired on Saturday mornings. Chris, do you remember this one? The Candy Apple News Company. Do you remember the Candy Apple News Company? Because that you can't find anything about. There's nothing about the Candy Apple News Company on YouTube, or at least there wasn't. I would give anything to get my hands on a copy of an episode of the Candy Apple News Company. Joey Baseball says, I'm kind of biased, but I love Paul Feig. I went to a class he was holding on filmmaking back in the 90s, and he was so generous with all his trade secrets of filmmaking. He was such a great guy. And I've been a fan of Paul Feig since he was on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And I was a big fan of Freaks and Geeks. Paul Feig's very talented. No question about it. Ed says, bless you. Thank you, Ed. I appreciate it. He's very talented, but man, I really did not like the way he conducted himself in that Ghostbusters thing. In a way, he was in over his head, though. To be fair to him, he shouldn't have done Ghostbusters because he didn't want to do Ghostbusters. He turned them down. He turned them down. Amy Pascal, this was all in the Sony hacked emails. We know it's true because it was in the hacked emails. Amy Pascal asked him to do Ghostbusters. He said no. She kept at him, kept at him, kept at him. She really wanted him to do Ghostbusters. He finally said, look, I'm only going to do Ghostbusters if you me do it my way. And he wanted to reboot it. He wanted to tell an origin story. All these things nobody wanted. Nobody cares that it was women. I'm sure someone cares. There's someone out there who cares that it was for women. Most people don't care it was for women. The problem was it wasn't a sequel. It wasn't in continuity with the two films we saw before. If it had been four women who were the successors to Aykroyd and Bill Murray and those guys had turned the business over to them and it was set in the same universe, I think a lot of people would have been much, much happier. But Feig was like, I want to do a reboot. I want to do an origin story. I want to show how they get the equipment. Well, this was his condition to do in the movie. And Amy Pascal desperately wanted him. So she finally said, yes, whatever you want, whatever you want. Well, she should have said no. She should have said, no, it's not the movie we're doing. It's not the movie we're doing. So he told them, no, I don't want to do it. No, I don't want to do it. No, I don't want to do it. And they kept after him. And finally, he ended up doing the movie he wanted to do because they gave him carte blanche, which they shouldn't have done. And then at that point, he was over his head. So I guess in a sense, I could feel bad for the guy because he really should have never been in that position because when he said what he wanted to do, he wanted to reboot it, he wanted to throw out the existing continuity, they should have said, no, that's not what Aykroyd wants. And Aykroyd is the creator, and Aykroyd's very heavily involved. And Aykroyd didn't like what Paul Feig did. I mean, he went along with it because if you believe the Sony hacks, he was legally obliged to. They told him, we're going to sue you if you don't go along with this. And then once he was on board as a producer, it was his responsibility to promote the movie. But then a couple years later, he's come out and said he didn't like the movie. So, anyway, maybe, maybe Feig deserves a little bit of slack there. But I didn't like the hate campaign. I didn't like the if you don't like what I'm doing, you hate women. I mean, I got a wife and two daughters. Don't tell me I hate women. Don't tell me I hate women. I'm always looking for strong female role models. We love Ray in this house. We love Ray. Because Ray's a good female role model for my girls. We love Captain Marvel, Brie Larson. She's terrific. We love Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's great. It's like, you give us a strong female role model that my girls could get behind. The DC Superhero Girls cartoon, girls love it. And I'm totally behind it. So you tell me that we hate women? I got a problem with that. I'm raising two girls. that rubs me the wrong way. But anyway, maybe I got to give Feig a little bit of slack. Anyway, where were we? Trashboat says, Joe, what was the movie you were saying about on CS Livestream, Bill and Ted type movie? Oh, Norman's Awesome Experience. The whole movie's on YouTube. Hang on a second. Jules, leave him alone. Jules, leave him alone. Get away from him, Jules. Get away from him. Leave him be. He's not bothering you. Lay down, Oreo. You can lay down. He's gone. Sorry about that. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. Oreo's going blind. Oreo's got cataracts in both eyes. He can barely see. And to be fair, Jules and Oreo have been getting along a lot better lately because they've been kind of leaving each other alone. In part, I think because maybe Oreo can't see Jules. Here's the thing. Oreo, years ago, wanted to play with Jules. He walked in, saw Jules. He's like, we're going to be friends. And he went up to play with Jules, and Jules didn't want any parts of it and gave him a swipe. Well, ever since then, Oreo's been afraid of Jules. So now if Oreo sees Jules coming near him, he has a tendency to bark or react because he's afraid of the cat because the cat took a swipe on him the first time he met him. Well, when Oreo barks at Jules, that agitates Jules, and that makes Jules get the claws out and go after Oreo. So Oreo is barking at Jules because he's afraid of Jules, but Jules reacts to the barking by going after Oreo. So it's this cycle. Well, lately they've been getting along better, and I think it's because Oreo, with his vision problems, I don't think he knows Jules is there half the time. And as a result, he doesn't bark at Jules, and therefore Jules is a little more calm. So I think Oreo's blindness is actually leading to some peace between them. But my heart goes out to that poor dog. I mean, how hard must that be for a dog? You know, you're losing your eyesight and you don't know what it is. You used to be able to see, now you can't see anymore. No one can explain to you, oh, you got cataracts. Like, I mean, he doesn't get that. I gotta sit there and explain it to him. He doesn't get it. He doesn't talk English. I can't sit there and explain to the dog, well, here's what's going on with your eyes. He just knows, why can't I see anymore? I feel bad. My heart really goes out to him. Anyway. Sav asked what I thought of the movie Spawn. I didn't care for it. I saw it once in the theater when it first came out, and I really never saw it again. Joey says, Jules, be a good cat. Oh no, poor Oreo. Is there anything you could do about his eyesight? Well, there is cataract surgery you could have. It's very expensive. Frankly, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. And Oreo's such an old dog. He's 13. I mean, he's way up there. I mean, if I had the money, if money wasn't an issue, I'd get him the surgery. You know, if I could improve his eyesight, I would do it. You know, heartbeat. But I can't. You know, I just can't. I wish. Nathan says, dogs adapt. He'll forget he could once see. Still breaks my heart. Still breaks my heart. He's also got doggy dementia. He's really got a lot of anxiety. It's a shame. It kills me. Joey says, I don't know if you saw my comment, but there was an episode of Candy Apple News Company on YouTube. Is there? There didn't used to be. Oh man, Joey, if you could I'll look for it, but if you could like forward me the link, I'd really appreciate that, because I've looked for it before and I couldn't find it. Trashboat says cataracts, more like dog racks. Oh boy. Trashboat says, what do they look like? I don't think I've ever seen them. Are we talking about what do the cataracts look like? It basically looks like there's clouds in his eyes. You know, cataracts are your lens. The lenses in your eyes are starting to break down, and they start to get very, very cloudy. The doctor tells us really all he can see are shadows now. Joey says, I don't know if the link showed up, but I sent it. It did not. It did not, but if you could email it to me at megapodtastic@gmail.com, I would appreciate it. All right, guys, we have gone over an hour. I am going to wrap this up. Thank you, everyone, for stopping in. Hey, last time for the Super Chat Hippo. Last chance. I'm going to get going. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving. Thank you for being here. I hope everyone has a terrific Thanksgiving, and stay safe, and go out Black Friday, do your hunting. Good luck. You know, hope you find what you're looking for. Hope you find tons and tons of Dollar Tree titles if that's what you're looking for. Otherwise, hey, Chris Pike, where do you live, man? You're in the Philly area? Because you know Star Stuff. You must be in the area. Anyway, Connor says keep wearing those pajamas. You guys keep wearing those pajamas as well. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Chris, you should come out next time we do like a Columbus or something. South Jersey. Yeah, come on out next time we're at Columbus or something. Meet up with us. Do it. Come on out. Keep wearing those pajamas, guys, and happy Thanksgiving.